the Tuesday show of Illini Drive. I'm your host, Gabby Hajduk. Joining with me, Josh Pietsch. Been a bit again.
Always is.
Always is. This semester's been weird. It's been kind of crazy. My Tuesdays and Thursdays last semester were like my freest days, and now they're my busiest days. So definitely a different vibe this semester. How are you today, Josh?
Just busy, doing work all day. Weather's crappy, so easy to stay inside.
Disgusting out.
It's literally awful. This stinks.
Yeah, it's like sleeting snow. And we literally were like chilling with the 70-degree weather last week. So it's kind of really frustrating me. And it's going to be chilly again tomorrow. Yeah. I don't think any snow.
Next week is going to be in the 70s.
Next week's going to be nice.
But the forecast is just straight wind.
I know. Like, can we just have like sun and warmth combined?
I wish.
Like, it can never just be both, So that's Illinois for you. And can't even be surprised at this point.
No, I mean I remember this kind of happened last year too. At the start of quarantine, I was with a couple of my friends, and one day we were doing homework like outside, socially distanced, and it was like 75 degrees, and then 2 days later we were like gonna go on a walk, and it was in like the 30s or something.
Yeah, I feel like March was really nice for the most part, so I feel like we kind of had to see this coming. Yeah, it always happens in the spring. You always have those random days where it's just gross.
After this week, it's going to hopefully stay nice. I assume there's going to be no snow again.
This is just ridiculous.
It stinks. It puts everyone in a bad mood.
But I know. It's like I just want to like be in bed all day, and that really can't happen when you're a college student right now. You got a lot of stuff to do. But
I feel you there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This semester's ending really quickly. Like, I just registered for my classes today, and like I've been behind on everything this semester. Like, I didn't even know my time ticket opened up. My time ticket opened up yesterday.
I don't know if mine's open or not.
Are you a James Scholar?
I am.
Then it's open.
Oh man, I should probably go register for classes then.
Yeah. So exactly. Right. I literally was like, oh, let me check when my time ticket is today. And then it was like my registration was open.
Better go check that.
Oh, dang. So yeah, the semester's kind of flying by. It's been hard, I think, on everybody. Everyone, like, all my friends I've talked to have been like, this is the worst semester ever.
This is awful. That's part of even at other schools too.
Yeah. It's like I'm always, like, I will always pride myself on being a really good student. And I've been like a horrible student this semester. It's just hard. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've been all right. I've definitely been procrastinating a few of my big projects that, I've got to get done, but I'm with you. I mean, this has been the worst semester ever. To make up for it, though, my friends and I from other schools, like, we're all having pretty hard semesters. So my one friend had the idea for all of us to book a trip. I told you this yesterday, going to Mexico together, and now we're going to Mexico a couple weeks after school ends. So I've got something to look forward to.
I'm not going on vacation until July, but
where to?
St. Croix, Virgin Islands.
Very nice.
Me and my one friend, her family always goes, and they always take me. So we haven't been in 2 years. Actually 3 years now. So we're going back in July 4th weekend. So should be fun. I'm excited, but got about 3-4 weeks left till the semester. But let's talk about actual sports.
Yep.
The Orange and Blue spring game was last night. Josh and I were there along with our sports editor, Jackson, to watch the very not exciting spring game, but that's football spring game for you. I mean, it's not going to be fun. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty much a blowout by the starters, the orange team, and the blue team were the backups. It's what you wanted to see. I mean, especially for a program like Illinois, if your backups are competing with your starters, then you're not going to be very good. But I think we saw some good things. You can't put a lot of stock into the score, like the official stats, because you have to keep in mind, like, the other defense or the other offense was like pretty horrible. But what you can look at is just how this new staff and how this new team has really come together. One thing that I saw and I asked the coach and players about was just like the energy. It looked like there was a lot of just like positive energy going around. Everyone was dancing, having fun. Like, it just seems like this team looks very together right now, which I feel like at some points last year, we didn't really see that. And I really liked how the coaching staff, like the Ryan Walters and Tony Peterson, and I think there was one other coach, and sometimes Brett Bielmo, was like, they were right on the field, like talking with the players, before plays or after plays. And I like that. I think you need to like get those coaching opportunities when you can. Obviously, you can't do that in a real game. You know, you're not on the field with them. So I did like how they set it up. And I just liked how together the team looked. I liked the energy. I liked the like fun competitiveness. So I liked what I saw just out of like the team atmosphere aspect.
Yeah, I mean, that was all good. The coaches on the field kind of reminded me of like Pee Wee League or whatever, with the coach right behind telling them the plays, because it was Peterson mostly right behind the offense.
Yeah.
Then obviously Walters can't get in there behind the defense, but I saw him come up to them a few times. So that was all good. Something I also really liked was all of the players like taking the social media phone and like recording videos, thanking the fans and stuff like that. You see them posting a lot. So I agree. The culture of the team's great. Yeah, you kind of alluded to it. It was a boring game. I mean, they ended up going with a running clock in the third quarter and fourth quarter, and even cut down to the fourth to like 8 minutes or something like that, which was necessary in my opinion. So thank you, Brett, for doing that. Obviously, they were running out of time on Big Ten Network, so you do what you got to do. But something that I was not pleasantly surprised about, but just pleased about watching, was that Brandon Peters looked good. Because he was on the first team, he was on the orange team. He had the good blocking and the good receivers because the orange team was the first team. But something you can't teach is accuracy, really. And he was accurate last night. He threw accurate passes to Luke Ford, Daniel Barker, Donnie Navarro,
Carlos Sandy.
How about Brian Hightower? Kamari Thompson on the touchdown. I mean, he hit all of his receivers. He used them properly. So, I mean, obviously it's early, and Isaiah, when he got, on the orange team, looked all right, had one or two nice passes, but Peters looked good.
Yeah, I think I wrote about this too. It was the first time since I really think 2019 that Brandon Peters looked comfortable in an Illinois uniform. Like, every game Brandon played last year, it was just bad. Like, nothing was really flowing. I think the only game was maybe...
Well, Nebraska, he looked good. And then the first quarter and a half of Iowa, he looked good.
Like, not even great. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't... I think 2019 Brandon Peters was a lot better, which, again, isn't even saying a lot, because I don't think he really found his rhythm there either. And I think there's potential for him. So I liked how comfortable he looked. And the one thing that really stuck out to me, and again, this was not a real game, so we don't know what it's going to look like in game situations, but last season, Brandon, like, only threw to Josh Matterbebe. Only threw to him. And, like, as much as the media pressed him on, like, are you not looking at anybody else, kept saying, oh, that's just, like, it looked like he literally only looked at Bebe the entire season. This time, you just hit on it. He was looking at every receiver. I mean, every receiver got touches that was on the field with Brandon, and I like that. I think the receiving group is thin this year, and there's not too much talent. But there's enough guys that have potential to, like, make it work. Like, Brian Hightower comes from Miami. He's a bigger, taller target. He's physical. Donnie Navarro is your quick guy, really good at getting open. His route running is really nice. And, again, just a literal speedster. I mean, he's so fast. We saw that a couple times. He broke free for, like, 30, 40 yards a couple times. And then, you have a guy like Kamari Thompson. He's a little smaller, but, still a physical guy. I am interested about Carlos Sandy because we haven't seen much of him. And he was, I think, Peter's first completion of the night, which was interesting to see because we've barely seen any out of him. So that was cool. And then you and I talked about this a lot just during the game, the tight end position. I mean, Daniel Barker got a lot of looks and targets last year.
He was the number 2 guy after Bebe last year.
Yeah, so Brandon is pretty comfortable with him. So I wasn't really looking at, their matchup. I think they already have that chemistry together. But I really liked what we saw out of Luke Ford. And I think every Illinois fan was very disappointed in how Lovey and Rod Smith used him last year, which was they didn't use him. That was the issue. And I think he was such like a highly anticipated transfer after returning home after a season at Georgia. He didn't get the transfer waiver by the NCAA, which is ridiculous. So then he sits out a year and then barely gets any attention from the coaching staff or the offense last year. And then we saw that he has skill, and that didn't develop like in overnight. Like, he's probably had that. It's just the way he needs to get utilized. And Brett Bielema hit on it a little in the post game. Like, maybe there have been maturity issues with Luke Ford in the past, because he did say that, like, he was impressed by his, like, maturation process through just the short couple months that Bielema has seen him. So, again, we don't really know what was going on last year between Lovie Smith, Luke Ford, Rod Smith, but all we know is Luke Ford has talent, and we saw it, and I'm happy that we're actually seeing that, so we know that there's potential for that to be a big piece come the fall time.
Yeah, it's about time. I mean, you get this stud from Georgia who, and there's a reason why his, eligibility became so popular, right? Is because everyone knew how talented he really was. And then he comes last year and he catches 2 passes all year. Like, I think that the one game he was actually open the most was the Purdue game. That was obviously a mess. Everyone goes out for COVID. You have like a backup quarterback come in. I think a couple people got hurt during the game. Like, they were so thin, and then boom, finally Luke Ford gets open. He got open actually better than anyone. So it was great to see him, actually get action last night. I know his parents were also pretty displeased about the way he was used last year. So really happy to see them. I don't know if you saw on your Twitter feed, Gabby, they're so active. Any tweet about him, they retweet, they like. So that's always really good to see. So you got your tight ends, obviously, that were used properly, a balanced wide receiver core. Brandon Pierce was awesome. Then how about the running room? I mean, you have Chase Brown, Chase Hayden, and Reggie Love, who aren't necessarily going to be a 3-headed monster next year, but each of them, whether it's Brownskill, who's kind of like a Dre Brown guy, Reggie Love, who's shifty and fast, a little bit of the same, and Chase Hayden, they're really talented. And I think that we may see 3 guys in the backfield that can get real minutes and score a lot next year.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I mean, Chase Brown, we didn't see anything different from him. I mean, he had a really great year last year, and it's just good to see him, continuing to be healthy and keep making strides forward. But I do really like what we saw from the other 2 guys. I mean, Chase Hayden, the transfer, worked with Bielema in Arkansas a little bit before Bielema was let go from that job. But Chase Hayden, he broke a lot of tackles. I mean, again, granted, second string defense. But still, I mean, he was like juking people out. He was, making guys miss, breaking through tackles. I mean, he's a physical guy. And so I think that's, going to be a real good duo between him and Chase Brown. And then you bring in one of the younger guys, redshirt freshman Reggie Love, who I was really impressed by. Like, he was probably the guy after Luke Ford I was like paying attention to the most. He's just, I like the word you use, shifty. Like, he's very, light on his feet, great agility. He's quick too, and Bielema had a lot of good things to say about him and just his growth. And he's young, so when Chase Hayden and Chase Brown eventually move on in the next year or 2, it's nice that there's going to be someone ready to kind of take that next step for them or to replace them. So I do like what we saw out of the Orange offense as a whole. I don't really have much on the defense besides I like the movements of Owen Carney and Isaiah Gay to outside linebacker.
Seth Coleman, too.
And Seth Coleman. I didn't see much from him. He played fine, but I think Owen Carney and Isaiah Gay were super disruptive. And I just like the whole idea of, kind of disguising them. Are they gonna rush? Are they gonna drop back? I like that, and I like what Ryan Walters has done with the defense. Obviously, it's still that group. The defense as a whole is a huge work in progress because you really don't have much talent on that side. I mean, you have some potential. It'll be interesting to see when Roderick Perry, Jamal Woods get healthy again. They were out, but yeah, I mean the defensive back crew is just so depleted right now. I mean, there's like no one back there. Besides really like Tony Adams. So
Devonta Witherspoon.
Yeah, Devin Witherspoon. He's fine. Derek Smith was out. Quan Martin was back there a little. So I don't know. The defense is definitely going to be my biggest worry going into the fall. I don't love anything I saw last night, but I'm also not like, oh my God, it's probably going to be a big step up from Lovie's defense regardless.
Well, it's not going to be the Tampa 2, which I think is a big deal.
Yes.
And, Ryan Walters has made it pretty clear he likes to run, whether it's a 3-4, 4-3, 4-5-2, something like that. But I think what we were seeing last night really was a 3-4 multiple. I remember I was talking about it with one of my buddies back at the house last night. Like, he runs this, and that's part of the position changes that happened with Coleman, Gay, and Carney. I wonder if all of them are going to stay there. I assume they should. I'm not sure that all of them should stay there, but I think that they will. But no, I mean, you can't really say anything about the defense last night because the offense on the blue team was just awful. Besides Isaiah Williams, when he was out there, you had no running backs, no receivers, no offensive line. Like,
he was fighting for his life out there.
Like, congratulations, defensive line, you got to the quarterback, but like, there was absolutely nothing stopping you. So you can't really say anything about the defense in a game like that. That's just going to be something that we're going to have to judge, when August 28th comes around against Nebraska for the first game. But no, I mean, they didn't give up any points. They totally shut them out. The only way that the blue team scored was on those field goals after the quarters. So no, the defense did exactly what they were supposed to. And do I think it's going to be a top half of the Big Ten defense? Absolutely not. But hopefully we're not looking at like a bottom 2 defense like we have seen in the past or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, I mean, successful spring game. You have no injuries, which is important. Minimal. The one thing that was funny, I think, real quick, was the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty from Calvin Hart. Like,
this is your first time on the field in game-like action as an Illini.
I don't even care about that.
No, I do. It's stupid.
It's just funny. Like, how do you get an unsportsmanlike penalty in your spring game? But I did like how Vilma immediately, I was watching. Yeah. Vilma immediately pulled him out of the game, talked to him. Didn't look mad or anything. Just seemed like a nice little teaching moment, a little coaching moment. So good to see Vilma like do that and just like correct that right away, whatever had happened.
It just worries me because, like, this dude, he transferred from NC State, joined the team in January. A couple months later,
I don't think it's anything to be worried about.
Well, I mean, if
I'm sure it just got like a little chippy in there, and
I don't like it. Hopefully, we don't see anything out of him. It bothered me. It was weird.
I'm not too worried about it. I think it's fine. I'm kind of like, not that it was good, but like a little competitiveness. When we come back, we are gonna stick with football, but we're gonna talk about some former Illini who we think can get drafted once the draft comes in 2 weeks now? Or are we a week and a half away?
29th, I think.
We're coming up on it. About week and a half, 2 weeks away. Oh, wait, 9 days. Yeah. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about some former Illini football players. Welcome back to Illini Drive. Again, we're going to stick with some Illinois football stuff, but we're going to talk about the upcoming NFL draft. Josh, I'm going to ask you right away. I think there's some Illini that could actually get drafted this time around. Who do you think goes the earliest?
Well, this is obvious. Kedrick Green's going the earliest for sure, and there's no doubt about it. I mean, he is a skilled offensive lineman who was, like, when he announced that he was leaving Illinois early, not one person was surprised. This is a shoo-in for the NFL draft. I've heard as high, realistically, as like a 3rd or 4th round pick for Green. Personally, I thought he was going to be about 5 or 6 coming out of, like, right when he declared for the draft. I remember that. But people have been really impressed with his work. He had a good pro day. So maybe he will go as high as 3 or 4. That's honestly my only safe pick for Illinois. I know that Amader Bebe could be a later round pick. Same thing with Eifler, potentially Hobbs. I would love for Hobbs to get drafted. I really don't think he's going to.
I don't think he
Green's an easy pick, though. I mean, that one's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I agree. Kendrick Green looks really good. It looks like he's even improved since the offseason, which is really nice to see. I mean, I think we could all always tell he was an NFL prospect, but it's good to see him actually in the draft boards and getting the attention he deserves. I mean, he looks really good. He had a really good pro day. I feel like next would probably be Josh Matter-Bebe.
Yes, for sure.
Probably a late round.
And this one might off be pure athleticism and potential, if I'm being honest with you. Like, he had a 46.5 or something like that inch vertical when he was at his pro day, I believe. He catches balls above his head really nicely. I mean, no one can be too impressed with the drops he had on a couple screen passes or over the middle short passes, like the ones right at the chest. But
Yeah.
you can teach that, like his lob catches over his head in like really tight coverage isn't something, you get out of regular receivers every single day. So considering his strength, his athleticism, his vertical, and his catching ability in traffic alone, I don't see why an NFL team would pass on him in the 6th or 7th round if you need an athletic receiver.
Yeah, I agree. I think, who was giving him some love on Twitter was DK Metcalf.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because people were, like, kind of comparing them just of, like, physicality and size-wise, which I could see. I mean, Bebe is a, taller, bigger guy. And, I mean, we could see how DK Metcalf panned out after a lot of people passed on him. I don't think Bebe's...
Well, DK Metcalf was a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah,
no matter,
but, like,
Bebe's nowhere near that.
Well, no, I know, but still, like, he thought he should have gone higher type of thing. But, again, not saying he's anywhere near that. I think he has a lot to improve on. But if you need a physical, bigger receiver, he is someone that has a lot of potential in front of him. I mean, he's a smart guy. He's a hard worker. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a team take a chance on him. I don't think I see Nate Hobbs getting drafted. I don't think he showed me anything last year. I mean, he was solid in the run game last year, but Illinois' defense as a whole was literally the worst in the Big Ten in the run game or run defense. So he didn't show me anything last year that gives me, any sense of like, oh my God, he's going to be a great NFL talent.
Nate Hobbs did not make himself the clear best defensive back for Illinois on a team that probably had the worst defensive back group in the conference. Like, when he declared, I was really surprised, and obviously we saw Jake Hansen come back, but Nate Hobbs is sticking with it, and like, hey dude, like, I'm happy for you. I know that you have a dream, but I really thought it could have been in Hobbs' best interest to come back and impress more, because I really don't think he's getting drafted, and I know that, pretty much every Illini didn't have a bad pro day. I think that everyone at least raised their stock a little bit. That's kind of what I'm hearing. But at the same time, for Hobbs, like I said, you were a DB in a really bad DB room last year. What if he would have come back another year, had a full season, new coaching staff, up your stock a little bit, boom, you could be a late round pick, where I really can't see him getting drafted right now. He'll probably get signed, but that doesn't guarantee anything more than like practice squad.
Yeah, no, I was very surprised that he never ended up coming back this season. So, I mean, if you're someone who's always wanted to pursue the NFL and you don't think that you can gain much out of another year of college, I mean, it's not any of our places to judge that decision. I just don't really see a spot for him right now. Besides like a practice squad and trying to work his way there.
And then we go over to Milo Eifler, who's the last one, who I definitely think has a better shot at getting drafted than Hobbs does. It's probably a little harder, now that I think about it, to get drafted at linebacker than it is DB. But at the same time, I mean, he looks different too, by the way, Gabby. I don't know if you've been on any of the Zooms with him for Pro Day or anything. He looks really good. He's clearly gained weight, and it's all been muscle.
Yes.
He sounded very mature when talking. He does think he's getting drafted. He is more confident than Hobbs was, which makes a lot of sense to me, because he, obviously he's been having different conversations with different scouts and pro coaches.
And he's at a really good agency down in Arizona.
Yeah.
He's been working with a lot of like NFL players and NFL talent. So I think that just goes to show that like there's NFL players who believe pretty highly in him or think pretty highly of him to work with him and things like that. So based on what I saw, like the past couple of years of Eifler, I probably, just looking at that, I wouldn't think he was getting drafted. But based on the changes he's made to his body, maybe his mindset, maybe his attitude, like, not saying that he ever had a bad attitude at all, but you could just tell there's like a different maturity level and a different like work ethic level. So I think based on that, I could see him maybe going in the last round or two. Otherwise, I think he'd be a really good pickup for a practice squad. And if he's a hard worker and if he continues to just improve kind of just his baseline skills, I think there is pretty good potential for him to make his way onto an actual roster come NFL time.
Yeah, I definitely have a little bit more hope in Eifler than I do Hobbs. Nothing against Hobbs. I just think that Eifler's more skilled and
has a higher
improved his body
potential.
A little bit more. Yeah, no, for sure. The potential is definitely there. If I had to make predictions for each of the four, because that's it for the Illini that are in the draft, I would guess Green, early 5th round, Amater Bebe, early to mid 7th round, Hobbs undrafted, and Eifler either late 7th round or undrafted, but I think he would get signed and he would stay.
Okay.
Just at least, stick around, at least get a legit chance. Unlike, and again, really nothing against Hobbs. I just don't see enough in him to be have a career in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested. Definitely be watching to see where Kendrick Green goes. One more thing about the NFL draft, segueing away from Illinois for a second. As a Bears fan, what do you want? What do you want to see out of just like priority?
It's just so tough because I've been going back and forth. I mean, an offensive lineman is obviously the easy answer for the Bears because that they had zero time for Foles or Trubisky to throw last year. Now you have Andy Dalton back there, and God knows he needs time to throw if he's going to do anything. But at the same time, there's a little part of me that says, hey, what if one of those top 5 quarterbacks somehow falls to 20? Then you could take them, keep him under Dalton, and then maybe try and, develop him, get him in next year, and you could potentially have, a starter for a long time. But I'm not sure that the kid out of North Dakota State, is it Trey Lance? I don't think that he's the guy for that. So I feel like if the Bears took an offensive lineman that was highly rated, I would be pleased. Honestly, the Bears are just a mess right now. This draft isn't going to help them. What about you as a Steelers fan?
Well, we just not let go, but James Conner is gone. So I'd probably want to see a running back, even though I swear we draft a running back every year. But I don't know. I think that's definitely a need. Also, offensive linemen. Our offensive line is getting a little old. So I'd like to see some fresh faces in there. So I'd probably be okay with offensive line, running back, or somehow if a quarterback falls, but Steelers usually don't pick quarterbacks in the first round.
Because Big Ben's back, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing.
How's he going to move? He's old and washed. So, I don't know. Definitely, I'd be most happy with an offensive lineman or a solid running back. But I don't want to settle for just a potential solid running back. If we're going to go running back early, I want it to be top pick. Otherwise, give me an offensive
You want it to be a home run hit with the running back?
Yeah. I don't want someone that we can maybe develop in a few years. No. I need a surefire talent or give me an offensive lineman.
I hear you.
All right. Well, we'll get some more NFL draft talk going in the next week or so, but we're going to go to our last break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some Illinois basketball. This is Illini Drive. Welcome back to Illini Drive. To wrap things up today, we're going to go with some good old Illinois basketball talk. Me and Josh's favorite, of course. Kofi Coburn, as expected, announced he will depart for the NBA draft. Probably won't come back. I'm assuming is actually going to go forward.
He really made it seem like he's done.
Yeah, which is understandable. It was probably a long shot that he was ever going to come back. And he's talked a lot about just wanting to pursue a professional career to get money for his family and everything like that. So with the departure of him, Georgie Bashangvili, and now Jermaine Hamlin going to the transfer portal, which was just reported about an hour ago now, within the hour. Not a lot of center talent.
Omar Payne, the addition from Florida really does help. The staff is raving about him, right?
Yeah.
He's got all this potential. He was rated one spot higher than Kofi coming out of high school, but you're right. It's a very thin group now.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Underwood and his staff try and go get another big man from the transfer portal. I mean, there's so many guys in the portal right now. But they got to start working pretty quickly on that, which I'm sure they have been. I'm sure this is not a new thing. It was pretty common knowledge that Kofi was going to declare, so I'm sure they've had plenty of time to take a look at that. But with the departure of Kofi comes the transfer of
Plummer from Utah.
what? How do you? Is it Alfonso?
Yeah,
Alfonso. Okay, I didn't want to butcher his first name. Alfonso Plummer from Utah. Another Puerto Rican guy. So him, Curbelo, and Melendez. Now all the Puerto Rican trio, all courtesy of Orlando Antigua.
Better not lose him, by the way. Kentucky's making a push.
You're gonna lose him eventually.
Pay your staff. There won't be a problem.
But no, because you're still gonna make more money as a head coach, no matter if
Kentucky's not a head coaching job. This is still an assistant job, even if he goes there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Well, Calipari's got a lifetime contract.
Well, yeah. I didn't know what the job situation was. Yeah. I mean, eventually he's gonna get a head coaching spot. I mean, he's just too good not to. And that's okay. I mean, that's gonna happen, and I think that's not what you want to happen, but it's a good sign that you have good people around you. But yeah, so Alfonso Plummer, Josh, you want to hit on him a little bit?
I mean, he's what Underwood thinks is the best shooter in the country. He's a lefty, so boom, there's your Adam Miller replacement. He has experience. So good for them on getting him. They really thought that he was the best shooter in the portal. Like I said, possibly the best shooter in the country. He's short. He's 6'1", which isn't great, especially on the defensive end, because if you have Trent, Curbelo, and Plummer back there on the court at the same time, that's a really small, not super buff like Baylor trio in the backcourt on defense, so that can hurt. But offensively, I mean, he can create his own shot. He has a nice stroke. We've seen him finish outside, and almost more importantly, he can finish inside too, so he's a two-way player. I really, really like it.
Yeah, I mean, he averaged 13.6 points per game for Utah last season, so he can score. Like you said, he could create his own shot in a lot of different ways, and Illinois needs shooters. I mean, that was, again, the thing they really struggled with this past season was having that lockdown shooter. I mean, Frazier showed it at times, Miller occasionally, DeMonte Williams in the beginning of the season, but, near the end of the season when they really needed a guy to just be a lockdown three-point shooter or at least, a jump shooter, you didn't have that. I mean, Io really improved on his shot, but he was more of your, take it to the hoop guy, which is what he's best at and what you want him to do. You need shooters on this team. You're going to have another guy, not similar to Sumu, but, you have Andre Curbelo who can really facilitate the floor and show that he can, take it to the hoop. You're obviously going to have Trent Frazier back, but again, his offense has been so hit or miss the past couple of years that you can't really rely on that. Jacob Grandison, another guy who showed shooting potential, but I think, and I said this at the end of the season or just when the offseason started, that you needed to go out and recruit or find in the transfer portal a guy who can shoot. And this way you got, and you got that.
Well, like we've said before, Underwood's plan here is more than clear, right? You have Curbelo, your pass-first point guard. Now you have Payne, your big guy that you have high hopes for, and shooters. That's it. Because now you have Trent Frazier, Plummer. You have Luke Goody, who's supposed to be a great shooter. Yeah. Melendez can shoot. Grandison can shoot. DeMonte, if he comes back, will shoot. There's 5 guys right there. The plan here is just so simple. I mean, Brad Underwood wants shooters, and he's going to get shooters. Plummer is an advanced shooter. He can create his own shot, can go inside if he needs to. Like I said, it's just there's absolutely nothing wrong with this addition. I love it. I hope he starts. Fun to watch him play.
Yeah, I am a little concerned on the defensive aspect just because he is a little smaller. And I was looking at some of the film that Brandon Simberg was tweeting out, and he was also a little concerned with the defensive side. But I think that's something that Brad Underwood and his staff are really good at. I mean, look what they transformed Adam Miller into on the defensive end. Not that he came in with defensive talent, but they really changed his game on the end of the court. So if you're coming in with a little bit of a lack of defensive ability, I think that's doesn't matter, but it's better to come in with a lack of defensive ability than a lack of offensive ability right now, because Brad Underwood and his staff are really good at making these guys defensive, just talent. I mean, that whole team last year, everybody was great on defense. And you even saw Andre Curbelo, who was really not great on the defensive end to start his freshman year. I mean, he really locked things down near the end of the year. So I think that's obviously a concern, but I think can be changed pretty quickly.
So I agree with what you're saying about the development of defense, but it's a little different with a guy like Plummer, because Trent's like 6'2", 6'3", not, has a little bit less, buff muscle than other guys. And he's your guy that covers like your true blue point guard, right? Like Marcus Carr, the Minnesota guard that just transferred, he locks him down. Bohannon, he locks him down.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different for a guy like Plummer, because Plummer's, 6'1", little less muscle, where Miller was 6'3" and had a little bit more muscle. So Plummer, is going to struggle to guard like a true 2 or a true 3, where Miller really could guard them. That's the difference between that, because you can do all the coaching you want, but at the end of the day, a lot of defense is, size. And Miller really did have that size, and that's what Illinois' just another aspect of Miller's game that they're going to struggle with now is covering a 2 or a 3 if Plummer, Frazier, Curbelo, 2 of those 3 are on the floor at the same time. So it's all great on offense, but yes, the defensive side is a little concerning for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my last question for you is, do you think they go and get one more transfer?
Well, I count 2 open spots now with Hamlin transferring, so I say you absolutely have to. I'd go for definitely another center, and then either a true blue point guard or maybe another like 4 type of guy. I think you have to.
That's the thing that is a little concerning, is the point guard spot.
Well, you have 2 right now, but after this year, you have 1 and no one on the radar as another true blue point guard.
Yeah. It does help, obviously, Trent coming back, because that was going to be the big thing. If Trent didn't come back, then you're really just left with Curbelo.
And it's weird for us to be worrying about beyond this year, right, since we're so many months away from the season, but it is worth having the conversation because unless Curbelo wins the Player of the Year award, he's going to stay. So boom, there's your starting point guard. But everyone knows you need a backup, and that's what Curbelo was to Trent this year. Obviously, you had Io, who won the Kuzi Award, which is the point guard award. So it could look very different in 2 years if they don't go and get a transfer now.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited. I think I was a little worried. With the basketball team coming into next year.
Yeah, last time we were on the show, you thought that you were kind of saying they weren't going to be good.
Yeah.
You had a very pessimistic view on them.
Well, I did, based on, again, that was all situational.
But the only thing that's changed since then has been Plummer coming in. Because in that conversation, we were assuming that Kofi was going to leave. And the only thing that's really changed since then has been the addition of Plummer.
Well, we also said Trent was leaving.
Wasn't that after he went on the podcast, or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. This was before.
You really haven't been on the show in a while.
Yeah, I haven't been on the show in like a couple weeks. So back then, it was, well, and I think rightfully so. I mean, I was very concerned on who was actually me on this team. I still don't think they're going to be like top 2 or 3 in the Big Ten.
No,
in my
not
opinion.
anymore. I agree with that. I think top 5 is sort of realistic.
Yeah. See, I was right. Weird.
Well, that's not what you were saying, though.
Yes, it was.
You were more comparing them to like an Indiana from this past year, from what we were saying last time, because you said a big guy, and we were talking about TJD, and then you said a lot of unexperienced guards, but now you do get a little bit of experience with Plummer, so that does change things a little bit.
I think I always said they could still be like a top 5, but I'm thinking like 5, like
in the conference.
Yeah. And I think they could still get there. I think it's just a lot of other Big Ten teams like Indiana, Wisconsin have made some strides in the transfer portal as well, or just retaining guys. So I think Ohio State's still really going to be good next year. Indiana looks like they're going to be very good. Michigan is
Michigan State.
Purdue, Michigan State. So I think Illinois has a ton of competition, and they're not gonna come out as the favorites.
And I mean, a lot of that's going to have to do with Omar Payne, let's be honest. Like, if he can reach his ceiling this year, yeah, they can be really good. But what are the odds Antigua gets everything out of him that he thinks he can in this year or before the season starts? Not very high, probably.
And it's also just a little concerning because Illinois ran most of their offense out of Kofi this past season. So having to adjust to that, you're kind of throwing in a whole new offense. Unless you run it through Omar Payne if he shows that. But I don't think that's really an option right now unless you go get a transfer center who's really, really good. Which, again, I don't really see that happening. So you're going to have to change your entire offense this season. Not your entire, but really what you run your offense out of. So it'll be interesting to see what Underwood comes up with and the staff comes up with just switching the offense around, especially also without Io. There's a lot of changes to just like the scoring dynamic, which I think could either go really good or really, really poorly.
Well, I think that like every team that loses a star or two after a good year, there's just a ton of unknowns because you look all across the board, right? Is Curbelo going to take the jump that we think he is from freshman to sophomore year? Is Trent finally going to get back to freshman year form and stay consistent? As far as Melendez, Goody, and Brandon, whatever his name is, I'm not going to remember his last name right now. It's long. Brandon P. How are they going to do as freshmen? How's Plummer going to do with experience at the guard spot? Is Jacob Grandison going to take a jump? Is Austin Hutcherson going to come in and play at the athletic freak we expect him to? And then most importantly, is Omar Payne going to take these strides? So it really is just a bunch of unknowns, and that's why it's so hard to predict what's going to happen with this team right now so far before the season starts.
I agree. All right, well, we'll keep our eyes on the transfer portal. Hopefully Illinois gets some good news at the center position in the next few weeks. But that has been it for today's edition of Illini Drive. Tune in for Brendan and Nathan tomorrow.